Recording, because why not?
Do we want to start 10 minutes early?
No, we're just letting the masses gather, as it were. Hello. I'm not sure how low latency this is now.
Say something.
Hello.
We're looking about half second.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty low. It's much better.
Yeah, no, having it thing would be very good. So let's pop out chat, because that's probably going to be a useful thing.
For me, it shows 1.5 seconds.
That
Yeah,
clock
I'm
seems
about
to be
the same.
ahead of mine. Well, that clock is pretty correct. It is, in fact, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's correct. So we'll be starting at 6 o'clock. I'm going to tweet about the fact that we are streaming and we're ready to roll.
Yeah, but we're not a proper theater, so we don't have the little light flicker button to tell everyone quiet down.
How's the sound on the stream? People watching? Mine has turned back on again after the thing.
I actually have it muted. I just like watching the clock. Wow, this is the first time I've seen people say that the sound is not garbage when someone asks that.
Okay, now is not the bloody time for someone to be phoning home. Hang on.
Now remember all, this is the first Forge annual parlay, and we might be doing it better next year, if we remember. Or we could just wing it like we're doing this year.
Yeah, I don't think I can help my father-in-law debug his printer right now, do you? You get CPW a proper mic? What's wrong with this mic? It's actually quite a good one. Am I overpowering everyone?
I think that you're a little bit louder.
Let's try doing that. Is that better? My mic sounds really bad.
It's hard to tell if people are trolling or not.
Honestly, it sounds fine to me on both sides of the stream.
I sound a little bit like Sloper. Yeah, funnily enough. Twitch CPW, there we go. I've tweeted it. Okay. Yeah, I imagine the other guys who are joining us via Discord might have a bit of a thing, but okay.
Yeah, I've tossed out a couple invites to various people in the community, and we'll see if anyone takes me up on it.
Cool. I did know. I was talking to someone earlier, and they said they might try and pop by, but they are in Europe, so they might not be able to make it. So anyway, I'm going to I'm testing a scene switch. Sorry. Did that work?
Ooh. Technology.
Shh, no one sees this. Well, actually, yeah, of course everyone sees this.
Quick, take snapshots.
I've
Analyze it.
uploaded the code is actually pretty up to date on the GitHub at the moment. So on my fork.
It's almost like we work in an open source project.
Yeah, I know, it's weird, isn't it?
I don't know. CPW is keeping secrets and making a fork based on this stream.
Look at this, look at this, look at all those errors.
Oh, good job. Such a good programmer.
It's boss. Is what it is.
Assert expected? What?
I think I accidentally pasted a bunch of code into this class.
Oh, good work.
I'll go in and local history revert it at some point, but
Oh yeah.
oh, it loads. It's kind of here. I do need to undo this. This is hard coded right now, so it's not right. But that's just
You
a tiny little
hard-coded
thing.
2 mods?
I hard coded the 2 mods loaded thing. Yeah, it was just basically to get the code working. This crashes.
Quitting the game crashes.
Bang! Guess what's missing? All the events.
Oof.
So I mean I can load the game up, and that's what I'm really concerned about right now is getting the game working and loading with all the mods in it. So funny that really. But the actual mod itself, where is it? There it is. Hasn't changed a huge amount to get it to where that works. I've tweeted out pictures of some of this stuff already, so.
Wait. Did you even port this to 1.12? Did you just skip right to 1.13?
No, this is 112 right now. We're going to have to update this to 113 once it's ready. But 113 is not anywhere near ready right now. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I had to use a functioning baseline. It's actually, unfortunately, this branch is actually about, it's, I believe, about 50 or 60 checkouts behind master at the moment. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a pain in the arse to do all the merging, but whatever. I had to
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah,
Did
exactly.
you change something with your mic? You've got a whistling in the background.
Have I?
Yeah, your computer sounds like it's ready to launch into space.
Is that better?
And there's a high-pitched sound. Yeah, much better.
Yeah, for some reason it does that occasionally. I've noticed it. I think it's picking up radio interference or something. I like this. I think this is just bloody sexy.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that for sure.
I this stuff is just so much nicer. But whatever.
Indeed.
Yeah, no.
This
What's
is
up with
nice
the
as well.
double get supplier? Oh, I see.
You have to because the outer supplier will always class load, but the inner supplier will only class load when the outer supplier calls get. So the outer supplier needs to be valid in all contexts, but the inner supplier can be valid only in client or server contexts.
I mean, as far as silliness goes, I'll take this any day. This is really cool.
It's a lot better than the hacks that we had before. It's a little bit weird, but class loaders be class loaders.
Yeah, the last few days has been a bit of a trial as I've tried to get things working properly. Like this one was fun. Trying to get was it this? No, there's this. Getting these this event bus working properly because this is keyed on the different events, obviously, which have changed. We'll show you later. But this is using the new event bus. But I actually had 2 hierarchies of the blooming events coming in, so it was firing the event on the wrong class loaded hierarchy. So,
oh jeez.
The class loading issues getting that working is just total nightmare. This is the solution.
All right, it's officially 3 o'clock.
It is. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a big FAP party. This is the Forge Parley event for 2018. We might try and do this again if this one goes all right. I'm CPW, sometime Forge developer. And joining me in a chat, we have Lex Menos, who you probably all
Hello,
know.
everyone.
Sorry, Lex, I talked over you.
I was just saying hello.
We also have Mez, who is also a big contributor to Forge these days.
Hello, this is Maz.
And Tamas is hanging out in the background. He's been a long time pal of Forge. We hope to have some other people joining us later on. We'll see what happens. But right now, I'll switch the screen back to this. We'll go back to the code in a wee while. This was mostly just set up to give us a chance to talk to you about what's happening with Forge in 2018. It's become a very, very big and public project over the last 7 years now, Lex, isn't it? 7, I think, yeah. 7.
Somewhere around there.
It's gone from like...
Way too old for this.
Yeah, it's this whole thing is just completely nuts. But, you know, everyone is... Forge is very old indeed. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about is related to that age. Forge was designed, and FML, the piece that I've been working on for the last long while, was designed in 1.2.3 when Bucket was still big. ModLoader was the standard for building mods, and so we had to be 100% compatible with ModLoader. Java 1.6 was fresh and new, and we had to be compatible with Java 5. Sprite sheets were still a thing. So this was very different world back in those days, and the technical debt has been huge. We've accumulated cruft from the time that ModLoader died back in 1.6.4, the time Bucket died. You know, we've got code that still does stuff from before we split out the class loader and gave that to the Mojang team. So
we've got code that has existed since before the client and server merged together.
Yes, we do. That's right. That was the first big thing we did. Dealing with that client server merge, that was a whole world of fun. So yeah, for the last, I'm going to say the last 2 years, I've been on a mission to try and clean up the mess. Originally, I'd hoped to target 1.12. That was a very, very naive hope, which was a year ago, by the way. 1.12 came out a year ago now. I was hoping to target 1.12 with this work, but it was no way it was ever going to be ready in time. So we deferred it, and 1.13 has taken a very long time to come out. As we all know, it's still not going to be out probably for another 2 or 3 weeks maybe. And so we've taken this opportunity to redo a lot of how mods load. Yes, it is Grum. Hey, Grum. Hello.
Is that actually Grum, or is that some fake account?
I believe that is actually Grum. Do you want an invite into voice? Yeah, that's actually Grum.
Let's have the account in question verify that they are not a fake account.
Oh, God, please not. He doesn't want to actually come on voice anyway. So that's fine. Only a fake Grum would say he's the real Grum.
Yeah, we should try to get a fake Grum in chat.
Hang on a minute. I have been thinged. Yeah, no, that's no one I care about. We can get an easy verification from Grum. I've put a request in, Grum. You know where to answer it.
Because if that is real Grum, toss him a moderation thing.
That's what I was going to do. I was going to mod him. So
I love you all in channel, but I like to filter people out based off of icons just because there's a lot of people.
2 kittens. Yes, indeed. That's right. Yes, indeed. Yeah, there you go. Fine, whatever. How do I give you moderation rights? Ban timeout mod user. There we go. He's now on mod. All right. You did. Okay, so let's carry on talking about what's going on. Where's that blooming list of questions? Because I think that's probably a pretty good place to start. Would you agree?
Yep, that's why we had him collate it.
Yeah, indeed. Let's go that one. Okay. So if I do this, we have a list of questions. Yay! We'll do that. People don't need to see that. So we've been asking for questions on on Discord for the last week. This is a collation of the obvious questions from there, and myself and the others will go attempt to answer them while on this stream, because then hopefully once we've got these answered, if we can throw it open for more questions, because no doubt there will be more. I will be showing you a little bit of what the new mod system looks like. It's not complete. The status is still very much, yeah, there's still a lot to be done to get it to the same state as we had in 1.12, but I'm confident that we can deliver that fairly shortly. So yeah, it looks like we can mark it all. So what's the progress? So we still have a lot of work to do. We have agreed that we're going to be merging in all of the functional changes from my branch of FML, which means that we are completely redoing the mod loader. We are completely redoing how mods load, and we are completely redoing probably some of the network stuff as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but that's still being in discussion. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but I'm confident that we can get it going. I think we've crossed all the big serious hurdles to making it all work, which is the key. Do you have anything to add, Lex?
So, for those who don't know, basically Forge is 2 different projects. Well, 3 different projects. There is the launch wrapper, which was donated to Mojang. It's what allows their old versions to work on their new launcher. It's also what runs all the core mods and all that stuff. There's FML, which is the basic mod loader that just loads a class file, fires off a couple events saying, hey, the client loaded. And then there's Forge, which is all of the actual modifications to Minecraft, adding new events, changing how basically all the registries, all the big library stuff is Forge. So CPW has to comment on this, but as far as 113 is concerned, because we're updating to support Java 9, which everyone has been craving for, and so much is changing in 113, he's completely rewriting launch wrapper, and that's
FML.
the fundamental thing.
FML as well. So FML is mostly rewritten. It's restructured. There's still a lot of common code, but a large amount of the methodology that FML uses to load mods has changed as we've gotten more and more understanding. Oh, better. As we got more and more understanding about how FML works, and how people have been using it, building these giant mod packs, we've realized that one of the big problems is the way that FML loads mods. It's all single stream at the moment, and one mod goes after another all the way through, and if you have 250 mods and each one takes 1 second to execute one of the events, we have 5 events that they can receive. That means that they take 5 seconds each to load. 250 times 5, that's 750 seconds. That's over 10 minutes.
Yeah. One of the major complaints people have is just the load time. And there will never be a day that Forge loads 1,000 mods instantaneously because stuff needs to actually process. But we're working on making it faster without the technical debt we've accrued from ModLoader. A lot of the issues is because ModLoader.
Yeah. A lot of it is the technical debt that we carried over from ModLoader, which is annoying, but that's the way. Yeah, and you're right, it's not 750, it's 1250. So it's actually way worse than that. That's 20 minutes, isn't it? You can blame ModLoader. ModLoader is from a different era. That's the reality of the situation. Modding was just different. People weren't building as many huge mods. They were the exception rather than the rule. Yes, it was 7 years ago, Aichan. Anyway, so there is progress. There's been a huge amount of progress. I'm confident that we can deliver something. It's going to be a lot of work between now and wow, 1.13 is wonderful and stable and everyone's going to love it. But yeah, and I'm fairly certain that it'll probably be 1.14 before we really are at that point. But yeah. Any difficulties with 1.13? Yeah, I mean, we've rewritten the entire mod loading framework from the point that the launcher calls us all the way through to running the game. So yeah, that's quite a lot of difficulties. I know Lex has been doing a lot of work on the back-end tooling as well. I think because we're very cognizant that Java 9, Java 10, Java 11 are all coming. They're all out there. 9 and 10 are out there now. 11's due in 3 months' time.
Mike.
Sorry. 11's due in 3 months' time. That just means that we are going to have, we've got to make sure that everything is able to deal with all of this. 11 may well have the first round of Valhalla work, which we'll talk about a bit more later on. But there's a lot of big things coming in the pipeline, and we've got to try and deal with them now. So we're taking this now. Okay.
So there's one question, second from the bottom of that section, related to Java 9 and 10.
Yeah.
So we are a Minecraft modding system. We need to be compatible with what Minecraft is compatible with. So we have to support whatever versions of Java that Minecraft supports. So for now and for the foreseeable future, that's Java 8 and above. If you want to have Forge designed and require Java 10 or Java 11 with the new Valhalla stuff, go yell at Mojang.
Yep. So I'm just going to expand on that a little bit. I don't know, Grum might want to chime in here in a second. So currently, what I've done, and one of the strong motivators for why we rewrote this stuff was that Java 9, Java 10 are out there. They break a lot about how modding works in 1.12 to date. So we had to rewrite it. Everything I've done, as far as I can tell, is compatible with Java 9 and 10. They are not yet compatible with the module system. That is a thing on my roadmap to support. That will be a fairly significant change when we do switch over to supporting it, because I think there is every likelihood that mods will want to use the module system to expose APIs and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I have had to kill a couple of features from FML to make sure that in Java 9 and Java 10 world, modding still works. One of the key ones, and this is going to be an annoyance for a lot of people, is that you can't all ship the same bloody packages anymore, because that just does not work in Java 9 and 10. Okay, so I know that the tradition was it's not really as much anymore, but back in the old days, you know, every mod had its own copy of the RF library in it, for example. That just breaks horribly in Java 9 and up. So we can't do that.
A comment on that. If people have been paying attention to Forge, one of the major features that was just rolled out in the last couple updates was a complete rewrite of the library management system. You know, the whole jar and jar thing. So from an end user point of view, you can still ship the APIs and everything. It'll just be a single jar download. You just got to lay it out correctly, and Forge will take care of the rest.
It is another question, JTK, I know. We'll talk about that a little bit more a bit later on, but because that's going to change a little bit for 1.13. I've got a couple of neat tricks that I can do with the new 1.13 stuff that we can't do in the 1.12. API stuff is gone, yeah. Optional API, both of those hacks are gone. They can't work in the new world. So I just killed it. So it's an annoyance, but it's the reality. We have to be compatible with the future, so I have to kill features that just can't work in it. ASM data table, yes, it's still around. It's changed its name, but it's still there. You can still do magic annotations. IMC is going to get an overhaul as well. I'm going to convert that to a pure supplier system. So no more, oh, can you please support random objects and stuff? Yeah, that's just going to be gone. IMC is just going to be, here's a queue of people with suppliers. Call them all or whatever you want to do with them. So IMC is going to be a lot more simple, but a lot more functional than it was today. So Ender.io would suddenly have dependence about 30 mods. Yes and no, Henry. You've got to realize the difference between, yeah, I know optional is going to be a pain in the neck to deal with, but we have to kill it. It doesn't work. When you go into Java 9, it is just broken. It just is going to completely break. And we know Java 9 is going to land soon.
So in all actuality, if those 30 mods use the capability system, use our event buses, use the features that Forge provides, then it can all always be soft dependencies. There should be no reason that you have to have a hard dependency on an optional mod.
So dependencies themselves are going to change a little bit with 1.13 as well, because I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Let's just start pushing through some of these questions quickly, because we've sort of talked through them. An ETA on stable. We'll let you know when we've got any idea, I think. But.
So basic roadmap, you can't hold me to this because things will change, is within a week or two of 1.13 officially dropping, I would like to have a compilable version of Forge, which is just the mod loader and it boots into Minecraft. But the plan is to completely audit every single hook and every single feature of Forge to see if it's even needed anymore, and if it is, rewrite it in a better way. So we're talking months here. Just to be flat out honest, we're talking months for it to be back up and running full bore.
No, this is not the Desposito 2 announcement stream. So, okay, do we expect this to be the last rewrite of Forge we'll ever need? I hope so. I hope that, I really hope that this is it. I've tried to make...
Here's
Well-
to 7 more years, though.
Honestly,
Agreed.
if we can get another 7 years out of this rewrite, and then we need another one because Java has changed so freaking much, I'm okay with that.
I'm pretty sure Java's not going to change that much. The only big thing that's likely to change us significantly from now on out is Valhalla. Because value types are going to change a fair bit about how stuff works. For the good. I mean, they're not going to be a bad thing. But that shouldn't require a rewrite of how Forge loads. Modules, when we adopt module system stuff, that's going to change how mods load, because APIs and stuff will be available then again. And, there might be things like multi-version jars that we can support and other tricks like that. We'll see. I've got to do a real sanity check on that. I haven't focused on that yet. But again, I don't think it's a big rewrite. I think it's just going to be changing some smaller aspects of it. New concurrency stuff for the JVM? Possibly. I haven't really been keeping up on the latest in JVM developments. I've had a lot of other stuff on my plate, but anyway. What's the status of new core mod system? Yes, it's in 1.13. The rewrite requires it. The old core mod stuff is gone. It is dead. It will not live any longer. And as a result, we needed a replacement. Me and Lex are not fans of core mods. Don't get me wrong here. We don't like them a huge amount, but they are 100% necessary.
That bet.
100% necessary.
The core mod system and the ability to modify Minecraft classes are 100% necessary for systems like Forge and FML to work.
Yep.
Your mom's core mod that adds a little button and flashes the screen? No, stop it.
So, to be clear, one of the primary goals of the new core mod system was to split out, because what I've observed is that a lot of core mods were just piling in all of their code into a core mod transformer that was, first of all, running really slowly and slowing everything down. And secondly, was pulling in classes left, right, and center that were into potentially the wrong class loading scope and causing all sorts of weird and subtle problems, like the game would suddenly crash because when it loaded a crash report handler that was now in the wrong class loading scope and it couldn't actually read it and it failed to cast it, and horrible things happened all the time. It was just ugly, and we needed to separate the two phases. So the new core mod system separates into two distinct systems. The primary thing a core mod does now is transform the incoming flow of classes as they are loaded into the class loader, which was what core mods were intended to be able to do. And we have deliberately set up a very tightly scoped JavaScript sandbox to allow you to do that operation. Literally, the only thing you can do is call ASM methods. It will need a lot of testing. I really want people to contribute good libraries of JavaScript code that can do things like inject methods here, wrap this method there, add a field, etc., etc. Those functions need to be able to be done, but having a good library of well-defined, well-written implementations means that we can get away from where in 1.12 we've got 50 core mods and they're all doing it their own way, and 49 of those implementations are questionable. So one of the goals was to do that. So having a good common library, which is one of the reasons it's separated out. It's in its own it's in its own GitHub repository, and we want thing. Yes, they are 100% isolated. They are loaded into separate JavaScript context engines. I've done some testing. The memory footprint isn't terrible, and it's worth the sacrifice. So I want common libraries in Forge, not in some random library thing. It's separated. You can push to it easily. We're going to make sure that PRs are accepted readily on that. Just basic quality control on the JavaScript.
So, a couple comments on that. We won't be the only provider of ways to modify the class. We know Mixin exists. Mixin is pretty freaking powerful.
Yep.
So Mixin, as soon as we can get things rolling, we would like to have it as a first class officially supported system. But it will all depend on how the new loader and everything rolls off.
Yeah.
So you won't be forced into JavaScript, but if you want to just edit the base classes, you're going to need to use JavaScript.
Yep.
And I mean, honestly, if that's what you want to do, it just seems like a much safer system where you don't have to worry so much about what you're doing.
Yeah. Why JavaScript? Because the Nashorn library ships with Java, so I didn't have to add a dependency on Groovy or anything else. I didn't have to write a complicated. I don't have to write a complicated DSL. Well, I'm very sorry, Solace. If you have no interest in using JavaScript, then Mixin will.
Core mods.
Yeah, Mixin will. Mixin will provide an alternative for this. We need to talk to the guys, the Mixin guys. So, yes, I'm sure there are going to be libraries that can do Kotlin JS generators, and I've seen Scalar JS generators. In theory, yeah, they should work fine. You've got to be careful, though, because we are very tightly scoped in terms of what you can actually access. And that is deliberate.
So the way it's working is it's expandable. So there will probably be 100 different ways of doing it, and everyone will do it wrong. But we're just concentrating on the people who actually want to follow the standards to do things correctly. The main idea between going the Mixin route and the JavaScript route is essentially that's all data which can be pulled out and cached, meaning we can cache the end result of all of your core mods running.
Yes.
Which means your loading is faster. The other benefit with going the data-driven route is we control how the data is loaded, and we can properly sandbox the two different class loaders. There's been a long-standing feature that if people have wanted, reloading of mods at runtime. We could never have that with the old system where both class loaders were essentially the same because people were writing bad core mods. This is a step in that direction. I've had the ability to have 5 different versions of the same mod running at the same time and swap out when I connect to servers for the last 5 years. I just haven't been able to do it because of core mods.
Eco, I'm just going to address a comment there. Nashorn is being removed and replaced with a better JavaScript library. It's really not big news. They are removing Nashorn, I agree, because Nashorn is old. They're updating it to a newer version of a JavaScript library that will basically be just as good, probably even more functional. Gradle, that's the name. Thank you, Demon. So we should be, in our terms, we're not intending. That will be ES6. Well, ES6 is supported in Java 9. Nashorn does offer ES6 in Java 9. So we do have one eye on that. But yeah, Gradle is supposed to introduce even more. Yes, it was introduced in SE8. But anyway, it's going away, but it doesn't matter. We're using the standard API for loading this stuff. It will be possible to replace it with whatever's replacing Nashorn, and it's not being removed.
Mike, and
yeah,
so that's a basic overview of the core modding changes. We can swing back around to that.
Yep.
If we want to go down the list some more.
So okay, so we've done that one. Whoever's got the tick box, tick that. Okay, will Forge consider the need of plugin server players and add some hooks to their favor? I don't know who asked this. Forge is not a plugin server.
I believe what they're referring to is vanilla clients on a modded server,
Okay.
which, yes, Forge has had support for that for quite a while now. 113, we're reworking how Forge interacts with the client and syncs everything. But yes, vanilla clients will still be able to connect. If there are server providers that say, hey, I need this server specific hook, Forge is open source. Go pull request it.
Forge is too complicated. Oh, okay. So someone's just updated that. Is Forge too complicated? So actually, the rewrite of how mods work should make that a lot easier, because one of the side effects of the way that I've rewritten the mod loading is that things are a lot less magical than they used to be. Annotations used to do 100 different things, and you had to understand all of them to really understand how your mod worked. And that's okay, but it's kind of annoying if you want something simple that you can understand from a thing. So, yeah.
And I want to swing back to it. The reason a lot of plugin developers who are coming from a bucket system think Forge is too complicated is because Forge is not what's known in the programming world an abstraction layer.
No.
We just let people go into the nitty gritty and get elbow deep and touch everything in Minecraft. If you want an abstraction layer that works with Forge, go with Sponge. That's literally why Sponge exists.
Yeah. So. Okay. Will the overall allow for increased game loading speed? If so, how much? This is going to be very difficult to measure because we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So things that have changed that should help. Mods will load in parallel. So on a multi-core system, it's possible that we could see quite significant speed ups. Assuming people aren't stupid and have like weight conditions on other mods all over the show, which is so that's going to change it a bit. We're aiming to cache a lot of stuff up front. So one of artifacts that we generated on the fly before were the decompilation, not decompilation, the deobfuscation. We also had the patching. Both of those were done dynamically at runtime as the game started, which meant that we had all sorts of weirdness around that, and that slows things down a lot. Those are changing.
So as it sits, yes, I believe we're still going to have the 3 phases: pre-init, init, and post-init.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe change them to some other name, but whatever. But each of those phases will be parallelized, but the entire phase will be completed for all mods before moving to the next one, which means if you use the system that I've been trying to promote for years of registering your stuff in pre-init, reacting to other people's stuff in post-init, then it should be fine.
Yeah, we're going to have phases. There's going to be actually quite a lot more phases. So we have pre-init, init, and post-init are still there. I haven't removed them. But, for example, registry events are going to fire. You should really move all your registration code into those because they fire and deal with all the registration stuff. The config stuff, that's going to be turned into an event-driven config. We'll talk a bit more about that a bit later when we talk about the config changes, because I'd like to get to a system where we have, if anyone's familiar with Factorio, I think this is a really good model. We have global config, we have player config, and we have world config. In Factorio, that's the 3 different classes of config. And quite honestly, there's no reason why we couldn't have exactly the same system in Minecraft, because there's definitely some global stuff that would need a game restart. But for example, player configs are probably, they'll just load up into the game. And then there's save configs, which are going to be stuff that would come from a server and reconfigure how that looks. So
yeah, there's definitely been mods that have reinvented that, and it would be nice to have kind of a standard system.
Echo, is that bad? So the config is going to become a lot more event driven as well. That will be on separate events. I think I'm going to redo the networking to be more event driven. Even simple impl will probably turn into something a little bit more event driven, although that might be hidden under the covers for you guys. But the idea is that yes, we'll still have the phases, and I expect there will still be a lot of work in those. There will be a means to access sort of a main thread context, so you can queue work onto the main thread. I'm looking to be able to support. If you're familiar with modern concurrency programming in Java, there's a thing called completable future, which is really, really nice because you can just chain these things together. So what I'm looking for is trying to make it so that if you need to do something in a particular sequence with conditions, and you can put completable futures behind gates, the idea is that you would just stuff that work into a completable future and it would be chunked on the main thread. So to address some of those sort of concurrency concerns, but the hope is, for example, loading all your textures, computing all of your random states, that can all be done on the loading threads asynchronously. So that's the theory. Yeah, kind of coroutines, not really, but yeah, completable future is boss, and I am looking very much forward to trying to get that. I haven't quite got to that point yet, but that is definitely where I am aiming to go. Yes, and promises.
Can I tack on a quick question about game loading?
Yep.
Is there any thoughts going towards game loading on Server Connect?
So on Server Connect is weird. One of the problems we've got right now in the modded 112 scenarios is that if people screw up Server Connect, then they kill the connection because they take too long. There was a mod that was released a couple of months ago into SevTech. He accidentally
broke things with JEI pretty badly.
Yeah,
as well.
But this guy was dumping literally 120 megs of log file, which was like I think about 5 copies of the registry in text form. And it meant that the login event suddenly was taking 50 or 60 seconds, and of course that's way over the timeout. It was just bad. Unfortunately it kind of got into the community a bit, and I think a lot of people have complained about, it's taken so long, because that mod unfortunately got quite popular because it was in SevTech, and it was crashing games, killing timeouts and everything. But it is a problem, so we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we can't necessarily compute the state of the entire world for every single mod at Server Connect time. I know that it would be really handy to be able to dump compute the new state of the world based on the Server Connect, but for example JEI, but I don't know how well we can get down that space. It would be nice to, but
in all honesty, I trust the author of JEI to be able to do things in the back end. So if you write your mod correctly, you can rebuild things and have it ready to go by the time the actual user needs it. The login and handshaking protocol for Forge is going to get a major rewrite.
Yes.
And hopefully it's going to be done in a way that will make it both faster but also more lag resistant, so it won't time out. Hopefully it'll have a nice little progress screen saying, hey, we are syncing stuff, give us a minute.
Yeah, we'll see where we can get to on that. That's the plan though. So so yeah, there's a lot of work there, but yes, we do plan, and we have got a lot of increases in mind. Okay, so this is a question for Grum. Are there any exciting improvements to the vanilla code base, Grum?
He's not in the chat, so I'll take that because I'm the one who stares at endless files of Sarge named code.
Yes, you've been doing this for a wee while. I'll let you talk for a minute.
The answer is hell yes. First off, the entire command system's getting completely rewritten to their Brigadier library, which it has so much back-end stuff that does like all the helping and suggestion fixes and all that stuff. It's very promising. I hate Mojang for writing it with fiery passion because it has broken Fern Flower on many occasions. But for the end modder, it should mean that the commands get a lot more powerful. They get a lot more efficient when they execute because they can use Java 9's Lambda compilation features, which will make it execute really fast. And it will be a lot better for server administrators because it will be a lot more structured and you can hook permissions into it a lot easier. There's also the world generation rewrite. That's going to be a big pain to deal with, but large world generation mods such as Twilight Forest and the like, there's a lot of new utilities in there that will make their lives a lot easier. I'm trying to think of what other features I've had to dig into.
I mean, unlimited blocks and biomes, I think that's pretty high on my excitement list.
That is also a major feature. There is what's called the Great Block Flattening. So they tout it as metadata being deleted, but it's just metadata being moved around and block states being flattened. The issue with that is it causes the registries to explode. Basically, they're 16 times bigger than they were before because 16 times more blocks, one for each new state, which brings us back to the handshake and needing to have it support a longer handshake so that we can sync all of that data. I'm working on a system which will allow us to speed that up by caching all that information on the client in a easily voidable cache system, but we'll see how that works in the future. And you thought dumping a couple megs for that mod to the log file, dumping the registries? Yeah, we're talking 16 times that amount.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some big technical challenges, but as far as mods are concerned, it's going to be a bit easier and much more flexible, which is really exciting.
Not to mention that it does mean that annoying mod that really broke the registries horribly. What was it? Not enough items.
Not enough IDs. Yeah.
Not enough IDs. Yeah.
That could die in a fire.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see that one go away because debugging registry problems introduced by that was just a nightmare.
All right. So since this is kind of along that point, I don't know if there's a question of it in the actual list, but Paleo brought it up. Data fixers. Data fixers are the system in which Minecraft uses to upgrade old MBT data to the new formats in which they need. Theoretically, you can use that system to upgrade your old world to 1.13. Theoretically. That requires a lot of work on the modder's end that I honestly can't see any modder ever doing due to the data fix system not being, the best. However, basically it comes down to your 112 worlds will not work in 113, just flat out. There may be a external tool at some time I've been debating on writing it myself, that you can run over worlds and it will convert them, but I highly doubt I will ever see any modders actually uptake the requirements to upgrade the worlds themselves.
Yeah, I think for the most part, modded players are pretty used to modded worlds just breaking on major updates, and this is really kind of nothing new, especially because it's such a big one. It just seems unlikely that a lot of mods are going to want to go through the effort of having all the proper porting code and data fixers and all that good stuff. Although it should be technically possible. I mean, look,
It's
updated,
technically
so.
possible. Well, sort of. There's a couple things that Mojang did that I want to smack them for that break things, but I can fix that.
So yeah, kind of same old.
Any breaking changes in Forge? Yeah, everything.
All of them.
We've already talked about quite a few, and I'm sure there's a load more that I haven't even thought of, and Lex hasn't even thought of yet.
Yeah, just to reiterate, once FML gets to a state where things are loading, every single hook, every single change, every single line of code in Forge, I'm going to go over with a fine-tooth comb, audit everything, see if it's even needed, see why people need it, see if I can redesign it to be better and get rid of all the technical debt that we've had over the last 7 years. It's going to take a lot of time.
If you dig into the weird corners where you're not just looking for stuff that you need, but you're just kind of wandering aimlessly, you find some weird stuff, like from the days where it used to be basically like Railcraft, Buildcraft, and Red Power's core mod, and it's like, what the heck is that?
Yep.
I'm really hoping I can get rid of all of the base edits we do specifically for Railcraft in block rail, because that's freaking annoying.
Well, all those terrain changes, all of them have got to be gone. There's no way that any of those can still exist in 1.13. So all of those terrain hooks that we had, we might have some of them. We'll have to reevaluate every single one of them. Sorry. UE, yeah, 100% yes. 112 is the new 1.7 and 1.13 is the new 1.8. Except that we're not going to shout at you if you stay on 112 for the next few months while we figure out everything in 1.13.
So, to caveat that, Forge's official stance will always be on the latest version. But I'm not going to put out a recommended build of Forge for several months, and I fully intend to support 112 development, probably at least for the next year. Officially, we've had backwards legacy support. That's been Mez's job. I don't know if he's been doing it. I let him do his own thing. But officially now, myself, Lex Manos, will be supporting 112.2 and 113 until 113 becomes stable and usable to my standards.
Yeah, and I mean the basic freedom that I have to backport stuff is if you want something fixed, just fix it on the latest version and you can backport it, and totally cool with that. Just make another PR, and I mean, as long as the code basically matches, it's usually a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, well, we fixed it in the latest, we should fix it everywhere. Why not? If you want it there, go ahead. And I think the other difference between 1.13 and say jumping to 1.8 is there's a lot of really cool, good reasons to want to mod on 1.13. And I think that 1.8 wasn't as enticing. So it's a bit of a different situation.
I agree. Yeah, I really hope that people will dig how FML will work in 1.13. I really hope that they dig all the vanilla changes in 1.13 and find reasons. We definitely want people on 1.13. The more people are trying to mod 1.13, the quicker we find problems, the quicker we fix them, the quicker we get to stable builds. But yeah, we understand that, you know, there's going to be mod packs for 112 for the next year, and you know, that's the reality. You know, we've got Sky Factory 4, they just started that. That's going to be a 112 pack. There's no way in earth they're going to get a 113 pack of that out. You know, the Feed the Beast guys, they're working on their new Infinity Involved pack. I don't know what it's going to be called. That's going to be a 112 pack. There's going to be big packs coming out for the next year, and they're all going to be on 112. So 112 has to be a thing we keep supporting. But 113, I really hope, is going to be compelling enough that people want to come and play with it.
That's the other thing too. The only way that Forge can find all the hooks and make things easier on modders for 113 is if the modders actually try it and say, hey, I want to do this, I need a hook for it. There's no way that I can read everyone's mind. So the more modders adopt 113, even if it's just on a preliminary testing basis, the better.
Okay, shall we move on? Jason, entity models, did that ever get into 113 or not?
As far as I know, it's not. I haven't heard anything from Mojang officially or unofficially about entity models. I'm hoping that there will be some modeling system, but yeah.
Grum says no.
Yeah.
So currently, no, we don't have an ETA. I think we're relying on Mojang to do that. So
I will say that if you guys don't know, and you haven't read my rants on Twitter, I really hate rendering. So we used to have this guy, his name was Fry, and then he became a trader and he went to work for Mojang. Therefore, he's no longer working on Forge. He used to be our rendering guy. He's doing a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, but then he became a trader. He's doing a lot of cool things on Mojang's end. But we need someone on Forge's end to do the rendering side of things. So if anyone actually wants to step up and prove themselves to be trustworthy, we're looking for someone. There's an unpaid job opening.
Well, when you put it like that.
BS2, he really needs a better name. BS guy, he's not so much the rendering guy, he's the quick bug fix guy. I love him to death, but his one-line bug fixes are getting really annoying.
yeah, how many of them have recently exploded things?
He's about 80% not explode, but that 20% exploding is getting annoying.
Oof, yeah. Okay. Server-side internationalization is not gone. Who thought that it was?
Oh, it's a deprecated I18N class.
It's so server-side translations are getting a major rewrite in 113.
Okay, but they aren't deprecated. They've been deprecated in 112 because Mojang wanted to kill that class for the longest time, because translation on the server is considered a no-no. But the problem is that then how do you do server-only mods? So in all honesty, it's one of the things that CPW and I just discussed last night. Mm-hmm.
And part of the handshake that I want to do is synchronizing translation keys. So the client would send, I'm on English, send me the English translation keys. So server-only mods could do localization in the same generic way. But that's a system that we have to develop once we actually see the state of 113 and what they finalize when the translations happen.
Yeah, so we don't know for certain, but I don't believe it's gone. It's changed. Audict replaced tags. This is one that you'll have to answer, Lex. I'm not familiar with the tag stuff yet. I haven't looked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can help with this too.
As it sits, basically, yes, the OR dictionary is now gone. It has been Mojangized and converted into the tag system. They stole it. We did it first. Just joking. Everything, the OR dictionary has been slowly being replaced by vanilla features. So, yeah, it's pretty much gone. No need anymore.
Yeah, and I mean the wildcard metadata is going away as well. And the other purpose that we were using OR dictionary for was for kind of item unification. And I'm working on some kind of system that'll let you create basic boring items like an iron ingot type thing within Forge, so that you don't need to register like 30 tin ingots and just bloat everything.
Oh,
So-
that was supposed to be fail. But
Yeah.
joking aside, that's cool.
So this is something that we've been spitballing back and forth, and I just want to get a general judge from the chat here. If Forge came out with a system that registered Forge ingot, Forge nugget, Forge blah, and let modders, if we registered copper, tin, whatever, from a config file, would you guys be okay with that as an optional thing?
Yeah, I think people might be okay with it.
That's a lot of yes.
I'm going to take it yes.
That's a lot of yes. That is a lot of yes. I'm trying to eat my sandwich, and that's a lot of yes.
All right. I've had an idea among my head on how to make like the world generation and the recipes and all that stuff completely data driven. So it'll be a configuration file, and then mods would just provide default configs. The one major thing that we have been fighting when it comes to a system like this is, I'm just going to flat out say it, modder ego. There have been systems where people will write a core mod specifically designed to hack into the OR dictionary to make their copper show up first.
Yeah, that's some silliness. I mean, ideally, we just have a config where the pack or the player could choose which one they want to have win, and hopefully leave it at that.
Yeah, ideally, it would just be a resource config file, and then the modder would say, is the Forge resource enabled? Don't load my stuff.
Right. Seems pretty straightforward.
Or
Hopefully
possibly
I'll get
just
something out
reference
soon.
it directly, you know. There's a variety of ways we can do the actual loading in, but that's cool. I guess that's also talking about data pack system, because, I mean, these sound like data packs.
Yeah, basically.
So-
So on to the data pack things. Data packs, we don't know the specifics of how functional they're going to be. It's actually the next question. In 113, because I haven't delved too deeply into that code. But the idea is, yes, we want to design a way that mods can supply data packs, and ideally, data packs can be synced to the client. Don't quote me on that.
Not happening this release, I believe. But
Definitely not this release, but
not for
that's
not
one
for
of my
vanilla.
features I want.
Not for vanilla, but maybe for maybe for us. We'll see.
I don't think there should be custom data pack formats or anything like that. I think there should be a whitelist of like JPEG texture files, a whitelist of JSON files in this specific directory in the mod jar, and I can easily pull that out into a separate file and sync that to the client.
Ambric, yes, they can be synced, but they're resource packs. They're only for textures. Data packs are a different system. They're not the same system.
It'll be something that we'll look into, but it's something that I want to do, but we don't know if it's feasible yet.
Okay, couple for me now, looks of things. So there was talk of Scalar being removed from Forge previously. Is that still happening? Yes, it's happened. It's done. Scalar is no longer in the build that I have right here in front of me. Scalar has been removed. The reason why is because it was getting really difficult to support it. We had to basically do some really silly shenanigans whenever we updated, and the amount of bandwidth it was adding to our system was insane. But Scalar lives on.
I just want to interject here. I think we peaked at 5 terabytes a day in just Scala files.
Yeah, it's a lot. So Scalar lives on. The new system actually is much improved, and I anticipate that you're going to see support for Scalar of various versions, Kotlin of various versions, Clojure of various versions, JavaScript of various versions, Groovy of various versions, coming soon, because I've actually designed a system whereby random languages can be loaded in. If they support the JVM, there is no reason why we can't load them. So yes, no more import scalar actors thread pool arrays. Yes, indeed, for a Java thing. Yeah. So if it supports the JVM, there's every reason to believe that someone is going to write a language support mod for it, because in 1.13, that's the whole idea. There is explicit language support mods that can ship everything they need to make that language work in FML. And if Kotlin wants objects that load this way, and Scala wants objects that load that way, and Java has @mod, fine, whatever, we don't care anymore. Each language controls its how it loads its stuff. And yeah, brainfuck mod, yeah, I'm sure. But the language adapter was really a broken concept. It only worked for Scala and maybe Kotlin sometimes.
It definitely seemed like one of those things that needed to be built in from the very beginning, and since you're doing the rewrite, you really had that in mind.
I did. I 100% wanted to make sure that mods that are written in languages not Java can 100% be supported. We don't have the same problem that we've had in the past. When Forge and FML first were born, especially when up until really about 4 years ago, there was no standard distribution mechanism for a pack. But today we've got packs coming left and right, and you know, the CurseForge system is basically a standard definition for a pack. If it's not CurseForge, it's the ATL guys. If it's not the ATL guys, it's someone else. Everyone supports the concept of packs. Packs are bundles of mods. Guess what? You now add your language support mod in there and you're done. You don't have to worry about anything else. You make your language support mod, you stick it up on CurseForge, it's a dependency of your actual mod, and you're done. So it should work perfectly. We don't have to worry about all the libraries that come with it, because they should be part of the mod, the language support mod. That's the whole model that this is going for. So the goal is that that's the mechanism. It should be workable even with mods, even with languages that don't really support annotations. And I know that there are a few that don't, because @mod is really Java FML specific. I'm not sure how Illy is doing the Scala one, and that shouldn't matter to us. He has a thing that he loads that's called a mod, and it's going to behave like a mod for everyone. It will receive events, acts on events. It's still a mod.
So from that specific part, the loading will be able to be loaded by whatever language provider they want.
Yep.
However, Java will always be Forge's first language and the only one it officially supports.
Yep.
However, if we ever add a feature that needs to be exposed to language adapters to do things properly, then just talk to us.
Yeah, now's the time. I haven't locked down the API yet for language mods. So Illy's working on the scalar language mod. But if someone else wants to step up and do a Kotlin one, yeah, I mean, I know Kotlin's real new hotness in the world right now. So yeah, IMC is still a thing. That will be thing. Forgelin. What's Forgelin? That's Kotlin. Yes. So.
Slight side request from a business point of view. Please don't do the Forge multi-part thing and put Forge in your name. It really pisses me off because you're not official. But yeah. However, speaking of official, Scourge, which is the Scala Forge, which Illy is doing, will be official. This is part of the reason why we're hoping to get language adapters to be so flexible, is because we're trying to work with Illy to make sure Scala can do everything that it can do. And if Scala can do everything that it can do, or it needs to do, theoretically the rest of the languages should be able to.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, and maybe in the future, if someone wants to work with us on a Forgelin, that's not out of the realms of possibility, because I know that there are quite a few people who love their Kotlin, but that's that's a future thing.
I am totally not against the Forge ecosystem assimilating all of these smaller things if people want to actually control the projects themselves and show that they won't upload viruses and stuff.
Parker, I do expect that someone is going to be an asshole like that, yes. I'd rather you weren't, but I do anticipate it. There's not much we can do. But yeah, I mean, this does expose certain things that mean that you could theoretically do something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Forge isn't technically trademarked or anything, and I have no way, shape, or form to pay a lawyer to do anything, nor would I want to because I'm not an asshole. But please don't state that you're an official association with Forge. Just please don't.
Okay, so what's next? What's an item map? What new stuff can we do with that? Have they changed in 1.13?
They've added a lot of new features for map creators and icons and stuff. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but yeah, I don't really have an answer besides I haven't looked too deeply into item map itself.
Okay. So annotation processor, no, because quite frankly, MC Mod Info's dead, gone completely, and the app mod annotation now contains one value, one. If you need an annotation processor to extract that one value and write it to the file, then what are you?
Yeah.
Seriously, what are you?
So the annotation processor was a good idea when it was duplicating data between the two different files.
Yeah.
But now the data isn't duplicated. The app mod purely has the mod ID, and the mod info file, which I don't remember what language or syntax we're going with, that has all of the extra metadata stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you a little tour of the new mod structure in a wee while, so we can go over that in a wee while. Okay, tweakers in the new mod launcher. No, tweakers are gone. Tweakers are part of legacy launcher. Tweakers are no longer in the system. Mod launcher is a new system. It is driven by service loader, which means it is 100% compatible with Java 9 and beyond. And as such, tweakers are dead to Forge. Yes, I'm sorry. That does mean that those who've used tweakers in the past as a mechanism to hook systems, unfortunately, that stuff is no longer going to work. Is this technically a genocide? No, it's a forgicide. Loot tables and recipe support config dependent item registration. I've always thought this is a bad idea, and I think it's a worse idea now. We are no longer constrained in any way, shape, or form on counts. If your mod wants to have 100 different items in it, just make 100 items. Don't make configs that say, oh, well, I'm going to have 50 items now, but if you change this flag, then you get another 25. That is bad practice. It's been bad practice for a while, and it should be. You shouldn't be doing it. There's no reason not to do it now, because you can have literally, well, it's probably arguably 2 billion, but you can have 2 billion items and 2 billion blocks and states in the game now. You're not going to run out. Don't make config. I know, Henry, there is a cleanup issue that we've got to deal with, which is what happens is if the world loads and it sees a block, this is particular to blocks, and it's a problem in 1.12. If a world loads and it sees a block, it allocates it a block ID. That block ID is then permanently reserved, even if you then later remove that mod. You can fix it. You can go in and delete the entry in the tracking table that tracks mod IDs that aren't active right now from the level DAP. So if you do that, you can reclaim the ID. And to be honest, there should be a tool, and I'm surprised no one's written one, that just goes through and does that, reclaims all these dead IDs. And that will fix that. It's an annoyance, but it does. It's
an annoyance, but it's a needed feature so that it helps prevent world corruption when people are messing with mod packs. That's all there is to it.
So, Henry, what you're really asking is there a way to hide items? And that's probably more of a configuration aspect than a thing. So, you still create the item. If you want to hide it for a particular world config, then we should expose mechanisms to hide things. I 100% support that.
Generally, you just turn off the recipe and hide it from the creative menu, and you're pretty good.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, it's hiding from the creative menu, and if there's no required regent to craft the recipe, then how will they ever get the item? I mean, JEI already has features to hide things from the JEI list, so there's no reason the item shouldn't exist in memory.
Yep. So but that's a different problem. That's hiding. That's not about removal or config dependent creation of the item in the first place.
But yes, also he mentioned it briefly, we want that tool written. A world cleanup tool would be great.
Yeah.
I don't have the time to write it. Someone else want to volunteer, go for it. We would love it.
1.12 should be targeted as well. Don't target 1.13 with that yet. Although it probably work on both eventually. Although 1.13 does have a different world format, I believe. So.
Yeah, 1.12 is the main culprit because it's still limited to the 4096 for actual registry entries, and 1.13 is limited to like
2 to the power 31.
A couple million.
So it's a max int, which is 2 billion.
I think technically it's smaller than that, but yeah, it's a ridiculous number.
Grum said 2 to the power 31, which 2 billion.
Oh jeez.
Yes, Kiwi Frog, I don't like that mod. Anyway, will registries be locked? They're locked today. I don't see why they wouldn't be locked tomorrow.
So this is coming from Craft Tweaker, and the issue of being able to reload recipes on server while the server is running, yes, registries will be locked. There will be a state in which they have to stop. That's simply how the world has to work, because you can't swap out blocks while the world is known to the client. Recipes ideally should be able to be synced in the they should be able to be synced in the handshake that we want to implement, so there should be no reason to reload them at runtime. You may have to do a kick all command, but I don't really see that as being too big of an issue.
Oh, and Grum's saying that it can now be hot reloaded, so we'll see. But that's just recipes. That's not everything else. So
I don't believe you, Grum. We'll have to test this because I know for a fact there's some code that will explode.
okay. I expect that's data pack stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
Will block states be really infinite? No, they're 2 to the power 31, so 2 billion.
There will be more block states possible than your RAM can support.
Yeah, you'll need a very, very, very large computer to load all 2 billion of them.
And here I was thinking of making a different block state for every B.
I believe that there are some computers in existence where you might be able to do that. Linux supports several petabytes of memory, I believe.
Oh, so I can just make Forestry Petabyte Edition?
Yeah, exactly. But garbage collection will probably take about a week.
I mean, we got to push the technology somehow.
Minecraft now gets 1 frame per month.
Yeah, 1 frame per month, or 1 TPM, 1 trick per month on the server. It might take a while to download that block state map too. Like, you might need a very, very large fat pipe to do that.
Well, as long as we increase the network timeout, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I need a T1 line to my house. Why, sir? Minecraft.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Any changes to GUIs? I don't know. Has there been anything in the back end?
Honestly, I haven't seen any. That hasn't really been a priority for this update.
I've moved all of the FML ones. I don't know if that counts. They're all moved to a new package because I don't want them in the old package. I don't know why they were all cluttering up the same package. But that's it.
Well, yeah, we're going to be cleaning up and redoing ours, but from a Minecraft point of view, it's pretty much the same.
World. Are there new world gen features? Yeah, I believe they rewrote the entire thing.
Yeah. So they rewrote it. Everything's completely different. I think they added like 600 new class files. Yeah, something like that. It will take a while for modders to dig into it, but from the code that I read while I was updating MCP, it's actually really modular and you can hook into a lot of things without Forge having to write hooks. So I think there will be just small edge cases that Forge needs to fix up for you.
I was looking into it and I noticed some of that stuff was threaded in the world gen. Did you get a chance to look into that?
Yes, world generation is threaded.
Yay.
So it now is processed in phases. So it does like the basic block placement and stuff.
Grum denies.
And then there are other phases which are forced onto the main thread.
Yeah. It's not multi-threaded. No, there's off-thread work before the world is chunk is chopped in, I guess. So.
Yeah, it's not. It's technically multi-threaded because it's on a secondary thread and then pushed back to the first one, but it's designed in such a way that it could be done off-thread.
Okay.
Aha.
We'll have to see the exact specifics and test it all out once we get things running and functional. but there's a lot of promise. It's a
Yeah.
really important feature that I think will be awesome.
Indeed. iWorldGen replaced by vanilla code. Again, we'll have to look, but I see no reason why not, based on what we've seen. So,
Yes, I believe it is.
yeah. JSON vanilla structure MBT for WorldGen. If it's in the vanilla WorldGen, yeah, probably.
I don't think there's a vanilla structure, just a generic class for it yet. I don't remember seeing that, but it would be stupid simple to write.
Probably. Okay. Remove world build height and depth.
Not going to happen. That is required to be done by Mojang. I know what's his face doing the whole cubics chunks thing is great, but it's a no, just no.
It's a gross hack, and yeah.
Dirty hacks.
Negative height, no, not gonna happen. So much assumes greater than 0. It's not funny. Custom commands. We've already talked about this somewhat, but yeah, there's like a huge new stuff with commands. So yeah.
Yeah, the entire command system is rewritten. I believe Mojang actually publishes the source for Brigadier as well, so I think you should be able to actually view it.
Yeah, it wasn't obfuscated in the last few releases that I looked at.
Grum, if you can, toss a link to the source jar.
Nice.
Or someone else in chat who knows how Maven layout is.
What's that for cubic chunks? Or
No, for
commands?
Brigadier, it's their command system.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Just like Forge is pulling a lot of stuff out to libraries,
Yeah.
Mojang is doing that slowly as well. So their command stuff is getting really powerful.
Cool.
And useful.
Okay, ludocate commands. I have no idea. I mean, you're probably better off asking a new map dev about that than us.
Will there be support for child commands? Yes, that's built into Brigadier. It's pretty cool. Really annoying Lambda decompile wise, but yeah. Will there be the new locate commands? I haven't looked into that command specifically. I'm really hoping that it isn't written poorly with hard-coded things anymore, so we can add mod-supported or mod structures to it. I know that's been a requested thing, but it's been the way it's implemented in 1.12 is just flat out horrible. I'm really hoping they didn't screw it up in 1.13.
Okay. So next up is fluids. I haven't looked at the new water physics stuff in 1.13. I suspect that it's basically just some overlaying block states. And as such, we probably need to rethink everything about how fluids work.
We already needed to look at that anyway. Our fluid stuff's getting pretty long in the tooth.
It is. It's looking pretty creaky. So
it's going to get a rewrite. It's not the new fluid stuff in Minecraft Vanilla isn't the best. We can get it working, but I'm just pulling this out of my butt. I'm pretty sure they're going to rewrite it between 1.13 and 1.14.
Okay. So Grum's confirming that the 1.13 doesn't contain the final fluid stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we might have to do is we might have to bridge and keep the existing stuff until we see the new fluid stuff from Mojang, because I think it would be ridiculous for us to rewrite it and then have to rewrite it all again. So
we'll see what happens. We'll talk to the people we need to talk to, and we'll do the best we can.
Yep.
There's already quite a bit we need to do just to modernize the fluid stuff we have, like use a regular registry and that type of thing. So
agreed. Yeah. So
will modded liquids be wrapped in an iForge registry? From what I've seen of the way Vanilla implemented their fluids, yes, they'll be just like blocks.
So I think that, yeah, the other two questions, new physics, probably. We don't know. Hopefully. Fluid
Will
stack.
fluid?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that.
It doesn't really look a lot like item stack anymore. I think that's kind of the point. It used to look like item stack a while ago, but it doesn't anymore. But
Yeah.
Well, I think the main question people were having is if there's going to be like an is empty and that type of thing to try to match the style.
yeah.
I would like fluid stack to change to a more static system, immutable. That's the word I'm thinking of. A
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
immutable system like item stack has become. So, hopefully, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Forge Gradle. Sadly, Amma is not around. He's been working on an overhaul of Forge Gradle because, I mean, the way that Forge Gradle works is really annoyingly tied to hacks that we know are getting removed in Gradle soon. Technically, I think
They have already been removed.
I think it's still.
Yeah.
I think it still works in one of the versions of 4 that I tried. But
yeah, Forge Gradle is getting rewritten.
yeah, it needs to be done again.
There's no ETA on it. Amma is working on it. Theoretically, we should have it functional within the next 2 weeks or so, enough where Forge can start developing. He should push it to the Forge Gradle repo sometime in that time, and then we'll open it up to the community to start helping out.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's starting to look like a really nice rewrite. I mean, it seems like the performance is going to be better. It's done in a more compatible way. The hacks are kind of isolated a bit more, just because we kind of already know what we need exactly this time. So it's one of the benefits of a rewrite, just starting over with all that knowledge.
Yes, indeed.
I will say this to our Mixin developers and people who use the other things besides the patcher plugin. Those are low priority.
Yes, proxy.
They will be added in later. And hey, once it's up on GitHub, feel free to submit your pull requests.
So with the way that FML is structured now as well, I'm hoping that we can just do away with depending on the JSON. I think that was a neat idea back in the day, but to be honest, the library list doesn't change enough for us to merit all the complexity that's added by doing all of that JSON parsing. So having just a static list of dependencies, I think, is probably very acceptable, especially given that we're going to be moving some things forward quite aggressively because of the restructure of FML. But we're going to have to talk about all that after we're in a better place in terms of the rest of it.
Yeah, that's one that we'll have to talk about.
Yep.
I'm hoping to get some changes done so that we can streamline how our library system is done on the launcher side of things.
Yes.
But yeah, I can't really speak to that because it requires people doing other things on other things.
Indeed. Right. Okay. So configuration. So yes, we did decide on a configuration format, and I'm very sorry for everyone who wanted to engage in prolonged config wars. Hey, Amma. Hello. Yes, we were talking about Forge Gradle. If there was anything you wanted to add, we are in chat on Discord.
If you want, I think I could drag you into the chat.
Where is he? Is he
Backstage, not a min.
Oh, okay. We can promote him. Where is he? There he is. There you go. Now you got access. Go join
It's the middle of the night for him. He can't join.
Oh, okay. You're not able to talk. That's fine. No worries. I think we've already said the key things about what's happening with Forge Gradle. We will obviously want to expand on that a little bit more once we've got some finalized decisions made, but I think there's still some influx stuff out there. Okay.
Back to configuration.
Back to configuration. Yes, so I'm not going to engage in a format war debate. We had a configuration file format, the Forge configuration file format. It's basically an ini file. Ini files are fine, but we had a bunch of custom extensions, and the whole thing was just a bit of a mess and an annoying pain in the ass to support in terms of code. So the one that's closest to ini that has nice features that we like, yeah, we're going with XML. No, we're not. We've already decided that it's TOML, TOML. Tom's something language. It is
Object
very
mode.
simple. It is basically an enhanced ini that's one. Tom's obvious minimal language. It is an enhanced ini file. It has well-defined typing, and it has reasonable, sensible, simple structure. It doesn't flip the lid if you have an extra tab in there. Okay, so it's not YAML. Okay, you don't have to have everything in curly braces and quotes and colons here and there and everywhere. It's a very, very simple language, and yes, it will be uploaded later, Pam. It's a very simple language. Mods will need to use it, so this isn't just for your config. You will need to use it for defining how your mods load. I'll show you that in a wee while. But this is the default, so this is replacing the Forge config system. I haven't written this code yet, but the goal is that you will basically be handed, in a config event, you'll be handed a TOML object that contains your thing. You can then pass it off to this night config library. It's a very nice little library. It supports injection onto objects based on annotation, so it's very similar to the way that the config object stuff works today. So it's not a huge change. It has support for some simple deserializations and reserializations. It supports lists. It supports list in list scenarios. So it's reasonably rich, and we should be able to support everything that we support from the Forge config side with this new config library. It's going to be event driven. I intend to have 3 different config events. I intend to have 3 different classes of config. There's going to be global config, which is what we have today. There'll be player config, which will be customized per player. And there'll be server config, which will be config that's loaded from the server at server login time. So that's the idea, and those will be event driven. You'll be triggering an event will be triggered that you can receive, listen to, and adapt your mod based on it. There will be the ability to load default configs from inside your jar. So you can say, this is my default world config, this is my default player config, and this is my default global config. So you can do that. So you'll have the ability to have all of those things loaded in. You'll get your defaults. Saving is automatic. The library does that for us. It's very nice. And so, yeah. One of the things I wanted to do was support having config sent from the server to the client. This server config. sent from server to client, and it needed to be done. So we're going to do that. There's no reason not to. And that'll trigger an event in the client, which would simplify a huge number of scenarios where today you have custom packet channels flying around at login, which is a problem that we have today. So,
one thing to note about this is it's great to have the magical syncing config, but it's up to the modders to actually implement that correctly.
Yes.
To make the configs actually do things properly when they reconnect. So we can only provide the infrastructure. Modders have to implement things correctly.
That's right, yeah. And it'll be important to understand and identify things that fall into each of those categories. Recipe configs are likely to be per world. We've got data packs, so there's very reason to believe that. But there may well be other types of config that are going to be global, and you won't be able to sync them from server to client. And if you try, you're probably just going to cause problems. But yeah, you will need to be able to receive these events if you care, and act on them and change the state of your mod appropriately.
So the data pack system is essentially Mojang's syncable config files. And we're going to be pushing modders to be using the data pack stuff. And we're hoping that modders will be okay with that, but we know that they won't. So we're going to provide a system to expand upon that.
Yeah. So, yeah, config has been decided. A lot of it is still to be implemented, but yeah, that's the goal. Thing. So we're getting towards the bottom here. What can we do to further educate about subjects? New features. Paleo, who is on voice but not able to talk, I believe, right now.
I'm actually able to talk.
Oh, hello. Paleo.
So I wanna introduce you guys. Paleo has been our web designer, and he's the guy who makes the Forge file server all pretty and the forums all pretty and stuff. He now officially has a new title, community guy. He's the one who has access to the Twitter. We're hoping to expand it onto the forums and get him doing stuff for that. Basically, all of the stupid, mundane, how you doing stuff, go to him. Don't bother me.
But
wow.
In a sense, what I'm hoping we'll be able to do is, apart from sessions like this, I hope this has been vaguely useful. I think the feedback looks like it's reasonably positive on the chat anyway. So I hope this has been vaguely useful. We'll hopefully do this again in a year's time. But at the same time, hopefully Paleo will be able to author the occasional news post for the forums and the Twitters, just to sort of highlight, hey, these things are happening.
What I'd like to do is like an actual news section on the forums would be great. So I've talked to Lex about this already. We'll have a separate news section, like that's not really in the forums, but the landing page sort of. And we'll probably be doing, or I plan to do, some sort of feature spotlight occasionally there and things like that.
That will be awesome. Thank you.
So this question comes from someone I talked to last night. Basically, he was complaining that there are new features added into Forge, like the jar and jar and the signing and all that stuff, that don't really get to see the light of day. I try my best to push documentation for major features like that when I push it to GitHub. I answer questions on IRC. I answer questions on Discord. I also talk to the people who are running our documentation repository, and they try to push everything out. We're doing the best we can, to disseminate that information, yeah, Garrett over there, he's our docs guy.
Hey, Tetra. Yeah.
But there's only so much we can do, and if people want to step forward and help to promote the dissemination of that information, we'd love it. Paleo is now officially the guy that you would step forward and talk to about that.
Yep. The other thing on recommended practices, we've been writing documentation for a while, and Teterag has been doing an amazing job of turning that into useful documentation. And that does try and discuss a lot of these topics. You should be reading it. Sorry, I say Teterag because that's how it looks on screen. But yeah, you're right. It is Gareth backwards, isn't it? There you go.
Yes, it is.
Today I learned.
No longer read his name like that.
Any change to the changelog file format? So you're talking about the build?
Hold on a second. we got Paleo into the chat, and then we proceeded to talk over him many times.
Sorry.
So did you want to say hi, Paleo?
Yeah, well, hi, but I think I've said everything. But one thing I wanted to point out, here is I'll post the link in Twitch chat because I've had people report issues about the about the file side to me all the time, and there's an actual issue tracker for it. So please go over there to report any issues.
You should add that to the footer of the files page.
Yeah, I wanted to do that, but I didn't get around to it yet. But I'll definitely do that now.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. Okay, yes, thank you. So the text changelog file. In an amusing twist of fate, one of the things that I've been doing is I've been sort of peeling out bits and bobs. I've been trying to modernize a lot of the infrastructure around how Forge builds. So far, I haven't done this to Forge itself. This will probably happen at some point during this 1.13 cycle. But for all the libraries that I've peeled out, I've turned them into, I've tried to modernize to using Jenkins file, and I've built a little utility that actually generates a text changelog in the format that Lex has been using for the last several years. And it's amusing that someone has complained that they want Markdown. We could probably do that. I don't see any reason I can't change that in like 5 seconds to make that Markdown, Lex, if that's what we want to do.
I'm perfectly fine with making the changelog into a different format as long as it's easily readable in text format, because I use text to read changelog. Screw you all.
You old.
I'm the old man who will sit on his lawn saying, "Damn whippersnappers."
Seems like Markdown's a good compromise for that then, yeah.
Markdown is probably a very good compromise, yeah, because basically it's just a bunch of stars in front, so...
However, with the rework that he's doing, it means that the code to generate the changelog files will be in Forge's repo. And guess what you can do to Forge's repo? Pull requests!
Yeah, I'm using a Jenkins pipeline hook library. So it's actually very, very neat. I quite like it. I quite like it a lot.
Yeah, CPW, he's been great. He's been working on cleaning up our servers and getting everything all good to go and updated.
Yeah.
And he's making me really want to work on a project that I put on the back burner a long time ago, which I will only tease now as it will help many modders.
Yes, yes indeed. Anyway, we'll probably talk about that at another time. I think there might be an opportunity in September, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, okay, MCP. Is there an update in progress for MCP? How many updates have you done to MCP, Lex?
Oh, god damn. Let me go count.
15? 20? Fail is there. It's on the list.
36.
36. Bloody hell. Okay,
Yes,
36.
I keep an archived format of each MCP update I did.
Yeah.
But yes, I've been updating MCP for all of the snapshots. I still have pre-1 and pre-2 to do. If you look on the GitHub repository, there's a new project called MCP config, which is MCP's config. So it's being worked on. However, I will state this now. I haven't talked to Sarge or anything about this, but honestly, it's my personal opinion that MCP in of itself is dead. The actual tool chain to sit down, decompile, and make jar mods have been a thing of the past for the last like 5 years. Stop doing it. However, you can make core mods with this new loading system, and you can still do all of the things that you want. Ideally, you would use Forge.
Yep.
Yeah, there's two parts to MCP. There's the MCP toolchain, which is all the Python scripts to decompile and set up your project and all that. And then there's the MCP config, which is all of the data needed to translate Minecraft from obfuscated to Sarge names, and then from Sarge names to the mappings, which the community provides. Those are two separate projects.
Okay.
The license. Why is the community not more involved in the update process for MCP mappings? Honestly, because they can't. It would be more of a pain for them to be involved than it would be for them to help for the Sarge mapping side of things. I do, however, talk to people like the Sponge developers to help pick class names, and they also have a GitHub repository for people to suggest class names, better names than I can pick. Because the way it works, for those who don't know, Minecraft is obfuscated. So you know that block class that you see in Minecraft, that's actually block QRZ or class QRZ. Me personally, I have to go in and make up names for those class files. Sometimes I just can't, because it's a class file. It has no functions, no strings to hit me at it, and I guess at the name. So if you go to the link Garrett just posted, you can suggest class names for things that change, which is why I've been pushing MCP config publicly, so that people who know what they're doing can go in and look at the class names and suggest better names before we lock them in for 1.13's lifecycle.
Yes, MCP bot's still a thing, but it's only a thing for fields and methods, not classes.
Yeah, classes don't get Sarge names, so you can't change them, because that would be kind of weird.
Yeah. So, on the license, MCP is still technically the property of Sarge and his stuff. We've been maintaining it on his behalf. We do not have the authority to relicense it to others. You have to talk to him.
Yeah, it's one of those things that him and I need to actually sit down and have a discussion with. As it sits, the reason the Sarge files don't have a license is because they don't need them. There are legitimate places that you can get them from us, the legitimate source, and they don't require any modifications, because if you modify them, you make yourself incompatible with everyone else who uses them. As for the mappings, again, if you modify the mappings and redistribute them, then you make yourself incompatible with everyone. So it's a weird concept for an open source system, but these are two fundamental things that need to be synced and standard across the entire community. However, if you come up with a great new tool idea that isn't a new mod loader just because Forge sucks and screw Forge, then talk to us and we can work something out.
Yep.
I think there's a bit of confusion, especially for like super copyleft projects and that type of thing, over whether they can use the mappings at all. Do you know anything about that?
So
technically the license for most of that data is all rights reserved and you can't do anything with them. So
but there is a meta question, which is it's all data, and data is technically not copyrightable. So, but it's a huge meta question. Quite frankly, there is no decided law on any of this. The whole world of Minecraft lives in this weird corner of license.
we aren't going to get into the legal aspects of it,
Yeah.
because CPW and I disagree on this, and without stating too much of my background, I know quite a bit about it. But that's an actual argument that CPW and I will have way later in private.
It's a fascinating topic for debate.
Yes.
And to be quite honest, don't bother going there. If you want to get to the MCP data,
if you have a legitimate reason to use it, talk to us. Honestly, that's the best we can say about it.
Yep. Just ask. We're not that mean.
Most of the time, the system in which you can use can work functionally correctly without the way you think that it needs to be implemented.
Anyway, let's move off from that. Plans after 13. Let's get 13 out of the world, please. Let's get 13 out first, and then we'll worry about what happens after that. We're not going away. I'm certainly not going anywhere. I don't think Lex is going anywhere. So we'll keep on trucking. I speak for myself. Yes, I will speak for myself. I don't know about Lex.
Honestly, that goes down to, so this is a public thing. Forge is my full-time day job. I do contract work and freelance work every now and again, but that's nowhere near enough to pay the bills. It all depends on if Forge is enough to sustain me enough that I have the free time on Forge.
Hello?
Hello?
There you are. Yes, Aichin, I did retire. I've retired from Minecraft modding more times than you probably have birthdays, mate.
CPW and Minecraft modding is like a middle school relationship.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
CPW is a big Microsoft fanboy.
Oh yeah, love them guys. Just love them. They're great. Will fail ever be unabandoned? It's eternally doomed to fail. So Project Fail, it sounds like, in fact, Mez and Lex have been talking about aspects of fail already, which is great. I officially put it on the back burner because I needed to do the rewrite of FML first. There was no way anything like fail was ever going to work with the way that mods loaded prior to this rewrite. There is now a non-zero chance that I could actually make something like fail work, which is basically my argument. So hopefully at some point we can do something around that. Yeah.
When it comes to fail, fail is what Forge abstraction and interaction layer. It's basically Bucket but Forge, and the concept behind it is that's an abstraction layer that goes over top of Minecraft so that mods will work easier between multiple Minecraft versions.
So one
The
of the
problem with that, the problem with that is it's a major freaking project, and honestly, we don't have the manpower for it. Currently, Sponge is the front runner in the abstraction layer game when it comes to proper modding.
So one thing I'll say is one of the ways I was trying to offset that cost, and why I left it on hold for so long, was that I wanted to be as data driven as possible. By going data driven, you remove a lot of the abstraction requirement, because the data mapping controls 90% of the object state before you even get to having to abstract code. So by having a rich data mapping layer and a rich data-driven layer, you could potentially get a long way there without actually having to build that huge, great big monolith API that needs updating every 6 weeks. What you do instead is you have a data mapping layer that maps the data structures you've defined onto the structure that actually is present inside the code. And yeah, there would be an abstraction layer in terms of there would be an API layer that, I was looking to make it as event driven as possible. By using the Forge events, we could get away from that. But the problem was that the way that everything worked in prior versions, it was very difficult to generate all of the needed artifacts in anything other than a completely clusterfuck of a fashion. It was horrible. So we will be I will be revisiting that probably once we've got FML finished, and I will be looking at that again. Data driven stuff in combination with a lightweight API layer is sort of where I was looking at this. So
yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of good ideas in that project, and it could be easier if we chip off little bits and pieces at a time to implement.
That's right, yeah. And it sounds like, we might be looking at some of those in 1.13 already, so that would be great. Okay, last two. They're the same. They're the same question. Well, not the last two. Someone's had another one there, look. Project Valhalla. Project Valhalla is value types for Java, put shortly. So currently in Java, there are two different types of data structure. There are objects, which are basically pointers to a block of memory that is allocated, has certain fields in them that probably point us to other things. And then there are primitives, which are like int, long, short, double, etc. Those are primitives. They are directly allocated out of memory. Project Valhalla, the goal is to transform aggregates of primitives into a new primitive type. So, for example, consider block pos inside of Java today. Currently, that's an object, which means that it has a 40-byte header, which is all of the object structure. There's like several flags. There's a pointer or two there as well, and a weight structure there. And then there's some fields which are like the X, Y, and Z coordinates, and then there's some more stuff afterwards potentially as well. Project Valhalla transforms that into a much more compact memory format, and it will treat it as if it's a primitive. So it'll allocate it directly on heap. So X, Y, and Z would be co-located in memory. Arrays would allocate in different ways depending on this stuff. It just changes a lot of structure about how you can structure your object types, and some things that are objects today would become value types tomorrow. Block pos is a perfect example, and it would have massive impacts. Value types would probably be mostly call by value rather than call by reference, which means they get allocated directly onto the stack, which means they're much faster to access. You know, there was a lot of debate when 1.8 introduced block pars, and it kind of offset itself because the JVM is actually incredibly smart and actually understands that if this object is scoped in this fashion, that it can just dive straight in and treat the fields as direct on stack references rather than having to go through the abstraction layers. And you know, it's full of these lovely little nifty optimizations, but you have to rely on them. They're not always optimized for memory layout. Modern CPUs love different structures of memory, you know, memory proximity for cache proximity on the CPU and stuff like that. And it's very difficult to optimize for all of these simultaneously. So Valhalla was trying to address all that by introducing value types. There's word they might be getting into Java 11, which is due out in the fall, so September timeframe. There's going to be a lot more work. Generics have to be redone completely. They will get de-derped finally because, you know, if you go and look at things like the stream API, you'll see that like there's int stream, long stream, double stream, because it has to be coded for each individual primitive type. If you use boxing, then boxing blows all the memory footprints up and it's all horrible. So yeah, vec3i, that's another value type. Blockpos is a value type as well, but
it's been a while since I've seen Java devs this hyped about a new feature. I mean, it's really exciting.
It's going to be amazeballs if they pull it off and it works very well, and it will have a huge impact on this game. Nothing else would have the impact this will. And yeah, if it does land, you know, we will be looking to try and make sure we're compatible with it. It'll obviously require Grum and Mojang to move first on them, so don't expect Java 11 to land and a week later Forge supports them. But is it glitching on stream?
Yeah.
I can see the twitching myself. I think my graphics card is crapping the bed, which is lovely. Yeah, it's a weird rendering issue with Firefox. Sometimes it does this twitchy thing. I can see it on my screen as well. So if I use GNOME 3 instead of KDE, I don't think it is. Is the stream working all right now?
Looks like it.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Yeah, it's usually just moving the windows and it will fix itself for a minute. Anyway, so yeah, Valhalla's huge. We'll see. Don't expect immediate change, but yeah, it's definitely one that we've kept our eye on.
Yeah, it's a great thing that it's coming to the Java virtual machine. However, like I stated at the beginning of this, we are a Minecraft modding system. We rely on Minecraft, not the JVM. So it's up to Mojang whether or not we can have Valhalla when it lands.
There. Anyway, will Forge be changing their patch system moving forward?
We have discussed this, and I've been talking to Mumfrey. We want to move the patch systems over to Mixin, because that would just make our lives a heck of a lot easier during the update process and management. However, the only viable way for us to do that is if the end user has a clean interface when it comes to the end Minecraft jar that they're compiling against. The problem with that is decompiling and getting it to run, and comments on code, and quality of life features in an interactive development environment.
Yep.
Yeah, as a modder, it's pretty tough to register yourself for events when you're not even entirely sure where they're being fired without looking into some separate file. So there's definitely some process work to be done.
So I think that there's every likelihood we would like to refresh our patches, and a lot of them will hopefully eventually move into a Mixin based system. I suspect there will be some remnants that will have to stay the way that they are today. So we'll be looking at a more hybrid system, I imagine. Maybe we'll be able to get everything into Mixin. I don't know, but
we're also looking into how we can use Java 8's features with default interfaces and things like that to slim down our patches and move like all the extra stuff we add to block into iForge block interface that block implements.
Yeah. So, is there any chance library-like functions get accepted into Forge?
So, this is something people ask for quite a bit. My personal opinion is I will not release a version of Forge and do all the support for it just because you want to save yourself one line of code. That's not going to happen. However, if it's an idea that we've been popping around every now and again, if someone wants to step up and create a Forge library and make it an official utility system that we can push out as a separate library and have people depend on it like a normal mod, I wouldn't be opposed to that if we could find trustworthy people. Forge utils, yes.
Robot Mares. We got Robot Mares.
We both are.
Oh, you've both gone robot. Hang on a minute. Hello? Lex has left. Hey, Lex.
I think we all started.
Maybe my connection has dropped. Hang on, I'm just going to drop and relog. Hello, chat, and everyone listening to the stream. Lex, I'm currently connecting. Looks like we've got a problem with the Discord server. Change the server to Russia.
I think it's back.
Better.
Yeah, we're back again. Yeah, sorry, the Discord decided to have a bit of a moment there. Anyway, yeah, libraries. It'd be lovely if we could do library stuff, but it does require a lot of support work. Having said that, several things that were part of Forge are now libraries that are separated. And, you know, there's no reason we can't add additional libraries to that list potentially, but it will require effort to get that supported. So,
So again, my not so subtle call to arms. If you are trustworthy and part of the community, sit there, make yourself known in the IRC and the Forge pull request queue. Mez has been doing a great job of managing all that stuff. Mez, if you see someone who steps up who states that they're wanting to hop on that project, let me know.
Yeah, will do. Definitely, you know, trying to help people out with PRs and do better stuff, do more reliable contributions and that type of thing. So anyone who's interested in this and also in the rendering that you mentioned earlier, Forge pull requests are the way to go.
Yeah. Sadly, this is a major project and we get tons of trolls, and the way things work, if we can't just trust everyone from the get-go, because if we did that, our couple million users would explode and then just cause more headaches for us.
Yeah.
So you gotta get yourself trusted in the community before we give you the reins to the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah. So there's one last question there. Exploits in J9. How do we plan to handle these issues in non-LTS? We can't deal with what happens on the Java layer. If Java is found to have problems, we have to just accept it and move on. There isn't much we can do about that.
Java's Java. CPW, did you want to show some stuff?
Yeah, I was going to do that. So what we'll do now is we'll just switch over to here. So those who joined a little bit early on stream will have seen some of this stuff already. It's not impressive yet, but it's a hint of what's to come in terms of how the echo is it really? Really? It's gone. I think it might have just been while I switched windows. Anyway, so what your mod might look like in the future. So this is inventory sorter. I've been sort of tweaking him. I'm going to be going out and looking at other mods. Echo CPW is best CPW. Am I really echoing? Okay, good. So the first thing you'll notice is that app mod is rather smaller. And that's because all of the information is now here. So this is the mods toml file that defines the mod structure. So mods now use this to load. If it's not in this file, it doesn't load. Okay. So we got a few common properties. So this is how you tell the language what language you want to load. So Java FML, that's the name of the language that I'm loading. And that's the one that's going to be shipped by default in Forge is Java FML. This is the version of the language that we want to load. So for Java FML, it will always be the Minecraft version. For other languages, that's dependent on the language. Hey Wild, welcome to the world of unprofessional streaming. So this is the version of the language that we want to load, and the system will fail if it doesn't find this version of the language. For Java FML mods, that is the version of MC. So this states that I support 12.2 of Java of Minecraft. Okay, we got an upj JSON, we've got an issue tracker JSON.
There is a note about the loader version and something that I have to drill into everyone for all of your freaking versions. It has to be comparable, following Apache Maven standards, which are very flexible, but don't add weird random strings to it. Just make it numbers, please.
Yeah, don't go doing weird stuff with your version strings. Just don't. So yeah, now we got the mod ID, we got our version. One thing I do support is that this works. So this will load the implementation string from the jar file. So if you want to have a build system where you just generate the meta-inf in the jar file, if you go and look in the manifest, hang on a second, I'll show you. Let's go find an event. That won't work. And go down here. If we go and look in here, so if you look in a manifest, you'll see all of these fields here. These are standard fields for the manifest. Okay. Dash snapshot. I'm actually moving away from
snapshot works, yes.
I'm trying to move away from it, but yeah, snapshot does work. This works as well. RC. This is a more modern standard. The snapshot standard is kind of, but whatever. Anyway, so these are standard fields: implementation title version, specification title version, implementation timestamp, vendor, and so all of these ones are standard. I added these ones because I'm bad. But implementation version, that's the key one. So I can actually read that, add it into here. So this means that that version comes from that field, which means that you can just automatically build all of that stuff with like one line of Gradle. You don't have to do any parsing of this file. You don't have to faff around with it. You just inject the version from there, and it's all signed, so it's secure, so it's good. Here's a multi-line config here, which is quite nice. And then we have these. This is sort of the multi-list multi-list structure. So for each mod, currently I do support multiple mods. We are trying to recommend that you have one mod in here, not multiple mods, because we can do jar in jar and other stuff now. There may well be additional vectors in here, like that I'll specify other jars that are in this file, but I haven't done that bit yet, so we've got to think that through. So this isn't absolutely final, but this does load, this does work, this functions. This is how you do dependencies now. I hated the mod loader system. I tried to make it work, but it was getting that you had these crazy, insane strings that had so much different structural data. Your self version range, you don't have a range. You as a mod have one version. You don't have a range of versions. You can depend on a range of other people's versions. So,
I think he's probably referring to the network handlers, and I think the network handlers will just be the same that they are right now.
Network handlers will be maybe in here. I haven't done that yet, so that's a to be determined right now. Okay, that was kind of next up on the list. Because currently the network stuff over here doesn't actually do anything because I've disabled it right now. So the rewrite is changing that. I'm not 100% sure exactly how it's going to work, but yes, quite possibly. It may well change more radically than that. I may well simplify it and just ask the mod what it cares about, because that's quite plausible. I can just register a supplier or a function or a predicate potentially, and then you define yourself a dependency for the network stuff. That is so unintuitive, Henry. That's brilliant. That would be weird. Anyway, so this is one proposed structure. So a lot of the stuff that we had before, in app mod we had like the GUI class factory, whatever it was called, and that's the name of a class, my GUI class, and you had other custom properties you could specify in here. So there was like a whole fistful of random properties that we could specify in app mod, and they were strings, and then we done class loading on them. We had at-sided proxy, fish, that would load a class depending on either side. Mod language, that was another thing. It's all gone. All gone. Okay, so mod language is here. You specify what you're going to load as your mod loader and the version of the mod loader that you care about. Okay, so we would have mod loader equals Scourge, and the loader version, that's up to Illy how he decides how he wants that. There are defaults for almost everything. Mod ID is not defaulted, mod loader is not defaulted, and loader version is not defaulted. Everything else is defaulted, so you don't need all of this. I believe the minimum is this one, mods, and mod ID, and that's it. But anyway, so a lot of this stuff was just derpy strings, and what they really are is they're suppliers. So let's make them bloody suppliers. So this is the replacement for at-sided proxy. By the way, this is the replacement for @instance. Notice all I am is just in the constructor, and I can just assign my instance. It's just like, what? Now I know that there are reasons where you might want to do a fetch ID. So we could probably do something like other mod equals list get dot. And then we would make this, so put you, and this would be an optional. Because that makes sense. So you'd have that. But yeah, the idea is that we, rather than having everything be a magic annotation, a lot of them were just kind of derpy, and they were doing a lot of magical listening, which doesn't seem necessary. So this is the replacement for sided proxy. Basically, we have a client-side supplier and a server-side supplier. The reason they are double suppliers is class loading, because the class loader will resolve this top level supplier, but it won't resolve the inside. So it won't resolve this piece, the side proxy new or the side client proxy new, until you actually access the top level, at which point it'll class load the supplier inside. So when you call get on this parent one, it will resolve this one and then you can get it or not. So yeah, suppliers. It's neat, but it's kind of weird.
It brings up the point that class loaders, especially when it comes to the proxy, is a major issue, because Minecraft has two basically environments where certain classes will or won't exist.
Mm-hmm.
What you just need to be very careful. Part of the reason why I pushed so hard for the magic annotations was because it hid all of the potential pitfalls of the class loader on our code, and it prevented modders from screwing up the class loader too much. So this removes a lot of the magic, but it also exposes some of the screw ups that modders can do.
So it does and it doesn't. I mean, you're not going to screw this up. This won't break.
That will screw it up, and I will tell you how it will be screwed up.
Okay, I'd love to see it.
They will put that in the initializer for their field. Their field will be static, and it will resolve it, and it will screw it up.
A static field initializer
that will screw it up.
Shouldn't make any difference, actually.
It will.
I will build a test and verify, but I believe that won't change it. But anyway, we can verify that. But put it in your constructor if you have to. This is a different way of doing various different extension systems. So rather than having strings inside the the annotations, this just does suppliers again, suppliers, and it's difficult to get it to compile to errors if it's missing stuff. That's the problem. I wanted to move away from a string API, because string APIs are difficult to error check. This does give us a lot more error checking. So I can't screw up the API for this. So if I go down to GUI config factory get GUI config, if I change this, and make this something else like object. Apart from that compile error there, if I go back over here, this should fail. It probably needs to be refreshed to do it, but, because that no longer matches the signature for this, because this has a type signature on it. Yeah, see, it's a by function in this case, but you can't screw up. You can still screw up. There's no unscrew-upable code, but
Yeah.
there are various ways that it should be a little bit less fiddly. I just wanted to try and remove some of the weird magical annotation stuff, but we still support some. These guys, the event bus subscriber, that still works. Subscribe event obviously still works. Those not going away.
A lot of the annotations are staying. They're just being augmented with suppliers and other API that doesn't require the annotation.
Yeah, indeed. I'm probably not going to support the sided proxy one, because that one is a pig to maintain. But anyway, we'll see. We can possibly retrofit it. But anyway, I mean, I suppose you could probably make it just generate this code, but
yeah, that's implementation stuff we can talk about later.
We can fiddle around with it. But the basic idea is that this is roughly what you're looking like. If you want to be all fresh and modern, you can do it this way. You can still have access to your event bus subscriber. The events, these ones. So these used to be on a separate event bus. Now they are on a separate event bus still, but they're now a Forge event bus, not a Guava event bus. Okay, so this is the Forge net event bus. They're separate because they're going to be dispatched in parallel. So the code that calls this stuff is over here.
Yes, the event bus still supports adding and removing listeners at any point in time.
Yep, you can remove these. A test I done was that if you want to remove, so you can remove it by just referencing the thing again. So this will work.
Now, this is a caveat of the system. When you create two lambdas with and they're not function pointers, then it won't unregister because they're two completely different objects.
But you can do this, so you can.
One way I've done this in other systems is to return some kind of token that you can use to unregister.
Or you could just keep a reference to the lambda itself.
If you need to unregister it, you just do that. So. Because those are the same object now. So you want to close my messages pane? There you go. How's that? But yeah, so yeah, you can still do that. That does work. But you do it like this. Where is the thing I was trying to show? Oh yeah. So if we go over here and that in the wrong place. Over here. Yeah. So currently I'm just using a straight parallel stream. I will be tweaking this, but the point is that mods will be dispatched. Their events will be dispatched in parallel. And yes, that's going to create some problems, but it's necessary for us to speed up loading significantly. So there's going to be API. So if we go back over to here, so see this mod loading context, this is a thread local, and I will have API on here to allow myself to do so I can enqueue some work callable. So I can enqueue some callable work that will get enqueued for working on the main thread at the next time the main thread collapses everything. So after each lifecycle event triggers, the after each lifecycle event triggers, everything does collapse back to a single point where we do error checking and throw the error. So and at that point we would then dispatch any pending work. I plan to support completable future in here. I'm probably gonna have to fiddle around to get that working, but computable future will give you a promise, and what you will be able to do is then take that promise and on the next event, so you could set up a whole bunch of completable futures in, say, init, and then the promises will have been completed in post init. So yeah, sided proxy should be a lot less important in this version, because we will also have a whole bunch of events firing that will only necessarily fire on the client and the server. There's no need for me to just fire
that, and the fact that you have sided executor.
Yeah.
It's one of those utility methods that will make sided proxy not
really
as
irrelevant. Yeah. So we have we've got a bunch of different ones here. Where did sided executor go? Yeah. So sided executor, this allows you to run code on one side only, and basically it just takes a supplier of a callable and then runs the callable. So that means that you can run stuff on one side or the other. There will be events that fire exclusively on the server and on the client. I haven't added them yet, but there will be new events that do that. So on the server, there will be like a server init event that fires between init and post init, and there will be a client init event that fires between pre-init and post init and post init for clients. Okay. And that will allow you to do a lot more client and server dependent setup in there. So what colors? This is just IntelliJ. I have rainbow brackets, which is awesome. So because it colors the brackets based on their pairs. Yeah, it requires both sides. Is not that's what sided executor is for. This does let you do that. So. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit different, but at the same time, it's not going to throw away everything. I've got a whole bunch of stuff in here. Mostly it still works. I haven't done the IMC yet. I will be redoing that. That's going to turn into a supplier-based system. So sending a message is going to be basically sending a supplier to the other side, and then they consume the supplier if they're there. I've always done my proxy classes like that, by the way. So when I designed it, I've always done this is how I wrote the first ever sided proxy. Superclass was server stuff. Client side was a subclass.
Yeah, people like to argue that, but it's down to personal preference.
It is very much personal preference, but this is the way I've always done it.
Honestly, with the sided executor utility, sided proxies will probably go by the wayside.
Yeah, I don't expect to have many of these. So, for example, this is the simple the inventory sorter one. It's not complicated, but it was doing some config stuff, and it was doing a key binding. But I will be able to do this just by putting in a. Sorry, Demon. Did you have a problem with people doing it that way? But anyway, yeah, so I'll be able to just do this by firing that bind keys method, or I'll be able to do it by putting an annotation. So I could do this as an event bus subscriber. So there's a variety of different ways that we could tackle that.
So side only will still exist because that is functionally necessary for how
It is
Minecraft
100% necessary.
People have been using it on their stuff. Don't see any reason why they can't still use it. You shouldn't. It's damn dirty ASM hacks. But
So
don't
right
do it.
now, Lex, it's a no-op. Because I haven't written the stripper. So I've been migrating everything to the new mod loader system, but I haven't migrated the thing that does the stripping of side only annotations yet.
Nice.
So it doesn't do a thing right now.
Could you guys explain real quick just why the side only is necessary?
So the problem is that if you go and look at Minecraft jars, there's two of them for a start. There's a client one, which loads the UI and everything, and then there's a server one, which just contains a dedicated server. And
on Mojang's end, it's the same exact class files in both that create the class files for both jars, but they run it through something that's called an obfuscator, and the obfuscator removes code that it thinks the program will never access. So a dedicated server will never access the code that renders the screen on the client. So it completely removes that class file from the jar. It will also remove functions in each class. So that function literally does not exist on the dedicated server. Side only is an annotation that we do when we remerge both the client and server jar together. And that tells us if it was only on the dedicated server jar or only on the dedicated client jar. Because if it's only on the dedicated server jar and you try to access it when you're running in the client, it'll error because that class doesn't exist.
So here's an example right here. So the Archon stuff, not many people use that because it's a thing, but Archon only exists on dedicated server. It doesn't exist on the client at all. Now it's in here because what we've done is in Forge we've smashed it together. We've added these annotations, so we know that this class only exists on this side.
So take an Archon utils, for example. If you were to say in your mod init, write a function that calls Archon utils.getByteSstring, it will error if it's running on the client.
So this will break because on the client this doesn't exist. So if I was to create a re-obfuscated version of the server, then this would break. So we do a few things where we actually have patches which strip sidedness in a few cases because it's useful to have the thing on the other side. An entity.setVelocity, yes, Aichen, yes, example. There's a bunch of them.
It's all done by the obfuscator, so it doesn't really know, oh, this is a really useful set value function. I should leave it so that the modders can have access to it. No, it just says, screw it, it's not used, delete it.
Yep. So anyway, so that's the sidedness stuff. So you need to be cognizant of the fact that that can happen. Yeah, get sub items was another classic. Now,
Honestly, I've debated on whether or not I should make the installer automatically remerge both jars together, but that
it'll
would run into more issues with the modded jars trying to load render items and stuff that just won't work on the server.
yeah, indeed. So here's some more stuff. So in case anyone's curious, this is what the new legacy launcher, which isn't the legacy launcher anymore, looks like. This is the new launcher framework that I've been building for the last while. It tries to be a little bit cleaner. It uses service loader in a lot of places. So I've got service loader stream utils to transform into streams, but whatever. These build as separate libraries. So if we go back over to Forge a second, I'll show you where it all gets put together. So in theory, theory's great, but practice is what matters. But these jars do not change. Yeah.
Why side only is going to still exist versus why optional shouldn't is optional was a damn dirty hack for modders making bad APIs.
Yeah.
The capability systems has replaced the need for optional, and people should just develop proper APIs that don't require ASM hacks.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a move more towards the discovery, or what was it? I forgot the name of it, but FML looking through all the jars for annotations and that type of thing, like the way JEI's API works. You don't need optional at all.
No.
I'm not sure what you're getting at, Garrett. Optional still is technically possible when it comes to Java 9. You just shouldn't, and we're not going to.
So, okay. I didn't say, well, I probably did say it was impossible. I mean, it's a bloody pain in the fucking arse. And quite frankly, I don't want to waste brain cycles trying to support a piece of shit. So I'm just not going to waste time on it, okay? It's a disgusting hack, and it doesn't work well. It has a huge pile of problems, and it needs to be removed, and it's gone. It doesn't exist. Well, it does now, but it won't exist when I push this code as a build. It's gone. There will not be any optional. I'm sorry. When we support Java 9, which may well be during the stabilization cycle of this, we don't know what Mojang's plans are. I've got hints that they might pull it fairly soon. We've got to figure that out. That's an evolving story right now. So Java 9 may happen sooner rather than later. We will see. When it happens, we will be using modules and module info to specify APIs, and those will be first-class APIs. There'll be proper APIs baked into the blooming system, and that's why we need to kill optional, because optional will just not work very well with that system at all. Okay. We will have proper API support through modules. Okay. And yeah, there may be a bridge period where we don't have anything because we're not officially going to be Java 9 required yet. But capabilities are quite capable of dealing with it. And optional is a dirty, dirty hack. It's gone. I didn't want to build it. It would be a pain in the arse to build because it would have to be a global parser, and global parsers don't work very well because they don't have access to the annotation layer, because the annotation layer is not actually computed It's computed asynchronously while the game is loading. And optionals really need to be pre-computed, which means that I would have to delay the start of the game to pre-compute the annotation state so I can compute the optional state. And everything becomes a pain in the fucking arse. So, no. Sorry, Garrett. Optional is gone. It is not coming back. I know that this is going to upset some people, but, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get the J9 stuff in sooner or later. We may do a refactor on some aspects of how capabilities work. Maybe I've seen some talk of a supplier-based system that might help de-derp some of the sort of unknowns around them.
It will evolve as time goes along, and we can start using Java 8 and Java 9 features. It was designed as a replacement for the optional system, and it's doing a damn good job for what it is.
Yeah.
As with everything, things evolve. Someone, I think it was Aichun, had the question earlier. Access transformers will still exist. That stuff will still exist, but we're still trying to get away from the destructive class transformers, and optional is destructive.
Yep.
Because if we were ever to want to say reboot all of the mods during runtime, it would screw up because suddenly a mod existed where it hadn't before, and the optional had already been stripped out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, and we want to move away from the hacks as best we can, and it's better to have people design proper APIs than to hack onto the bad stuff we had before.
Who wants to return to what question? JTK.
He's been adding a couple things to the question list.
Okay. We can go back to it quickly. F11. Will there be separate world gen threads for single DIMs? We don't know. I certainly can't answer that right now.
As Grump said, it's designed to be off-thread. I'm going to look at how hard it would be to split things off. No promises.
So, runtime mod unloading. So, the traditional way you do this in an application server is you throw the class loader away. Okay? Disposing of the class loader is not yet possible. Okay? Unfortunately, the way that mod loading works today, you do affect global state. That said, with projects like Fail, there's no reason why a data-driven system can't undo itself, because it knows what it's done, so it can just hit the rewind button. We can throw the class loader away and reload everything. Currently, I decided to, for simplicity's sake, currently everything loads in a single class loader. It should be reasonably easy to do a per mod class loader. That does introduce scoping issues. That would likely come as part of a Java 9 touch-up, because in Java 9 we have the module stuff, which means that you can suddenly solidify an absolute API, which means I can load you as a module, and your class loading scope suddenly is driven by the module and not by, oh, well, I can just find you. It's the module actually defines a real scope. So, yeah, hopefully, once we've got Java 9 stuff in place, we've got some better data-driven stuff for things like blocks and global state objects, we might be able to actually do that. Side common for consistency. In which annotations? So side common doesn't exist, no. If it's not annotated, it's everywhere. That's not going to happen. There are places where I do have another sided annotation, but that's for dependencies, because dependencies can be sided now. I think we added that in 1.12 as well, but this is through the new dependency system. So on change before release, they could work something for the forged DOS.
When it comes to that, I do talk to Garrett and Mez, and we have a private IRC and Discord channel that I discuss most of the stuff that I'm working on. So they have that information, and they have a direct line to access to ask me questions about it.
So yeah, the other thing I think to realize is that you know, documentation is kind of usually targeted to the main release as released right now, the official release, rather than the betas. So you know, looking at the beta change log should be good for identifying things that are changing. I would normally target mods at main releases. I know that's not always possible, but that's the goal would be to do that. And hopefully, if we can up the release schedule a bit, maybe.
The official stance is Forge doesn't have a release schedule. Every commit pushes to our file server, and I only make recommended builds when I feel like it or someone asks me to. So if you write a mod and you require a feature that is past the latest recommended build, maybe you should ask if I should push a recommended build. And then I'll be like, God damn it, I don't like writing the post, but probably I can do it. As long as it's not like 5 minutes after I make the recommended build.
Okay, more events in 1.13 to hint at... Yes, I plan to event all the things. I would like to move to a fully event-driven mod if possible, but there's
they
still
really
some
tend
hindrances
to
to
take the ambiguity out of things when you've got like a before and after certain mods. It's nice to just have it all broken up that way.
Yeah, if only you guys could see my initial names for certain events.
Multi-thread, how will the loading screen change? That's a really good question, and I'm not sure how I'm going to change it yet, but we'll think about it, because yeah, it's probably just going to say, you know, loading 20 mods or something like that, because
it's one of those things that we need to find a graphics guy, because 1.13 now has LWJGL3, which has the really cool feature, which is first class support for multi-threaded rendering.
Yay.
A lot of the issue with our current splash screen is that we have to shuffle around the GL context between threads.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to rewrite that entire system to the off thread so that it will run faster. So any GL3 specialists out there, talk to me.
I think we should just spawn a new window for every mod that we load.
No.
And it'll be great.
I think we need the old Java AW team window popping up.
Oh yeah.
That's what we want. We had someone requesting that for retro. Yeah, Alma. Yeah. Do one thing first, yeah, please. Do it to completion first. Forge shitty loading graphic is best graphic.
I love that graphic.
It's the best graphic. Anyway, so that's that. So loading stuff, yeah, it loads. And mods, you're going to have to build this mods toml file. I'm sorry. Events should be able to drive a lot more stuff. Yeah, it does load. I don't know if I've broken it.
All right,
I might have broken it with code. So I think a couple more things before we sign off the stream, and I will need to sign off.
I do want to interject here real quick.
Yeah.
If people in chat still have more questions, feel free to ask them. Mez will be reading chat, and he'll pop up and raise his hand when he has questions for us.
So I'm going to allow everyone to write messages to the FAP Q&A channel again. Okay? So, yay. We're loading the game. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, it doesn't do anything yet. The mod isn't finished. Oh, I broke the version. Because I'm not writing the version string into the jar file, but whatever. Because I don't have a jar file right now because I'm loading from classes. So, but yeah, so that's the state of it at the moment. Yeah, mod state is pre-init. That's right. This is GNOME 3 running on Debian. Debian Buster.
Will retransforming hot swap code work in dev environment with the new changes? Probably not.
Retransforming stuff, no.
Also, the code that you as an average modder are running shouldn't be transformed, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, transformers should be applying to Minecraft code, not to other code. In general, you shouldn't be transforming your mod using transformer code. That's not the way it works. Yeah, you can. If you really want to build a self-referencing, self-building mod using transformers, please don't. Just please don't. Anyway, so a couple of little things. Let's go back to that screen. Look at that. Bloody hell, we've been on stream for 3 hours. So,
yeah, people are messaging me. We're having a fire tonight, and they're heading this way.
We'll be wrapped up in like 2 more minutes. A couple of little things. So, a few days ago, Pahimar teased the Forge Modders Day. I'm going to talk a brief amount about what we wanted that project to be. The idea was it would be kind of Minecon for modders. Since Minecon Earth has gone all virtual, well, why don't we do that? I know we've had thingy thing in the past. And
better than Minecon.
Yeah, better than Minecon. But this was more actual content for modders. Like, for example, one of the things I wanted to do was write a history of FML talk. A history of modding talk. But then, yeah, modders are adults, hardly. We've got quite a few adults. We've got quite a few kids in here, but it's actually quite a mix. The idea was to sort of have a few talks about different aspects of modding. No, I'm not writing a book. Someone else has written a book already.
Honestly, we're working on the specifics, but one of the ideas that I had was if you're a modder and you want to do a quick commercial for your mod or a spotlight for it, we can run that between panels, and we can set up panels to discuss various things. And basically we wanted to make it this but more organized and with the rest of the community and everyone actually involved in it.
Yeah.
Because this is more of this is specifically Forge, this is what we're doing. We want Modders Day to be everyone in the community.
Yep. So I was hoping that we could get a few people. If you have an idea for something you think might be a good chat and talk for that, talk to us on Discord, because I know that we're looking for people who might be able to write interesting content like that. You know, I'm not sure of the specifics. Pahimar is helping organize this as well. And yeah, the idea is just to have sort of a big day. We'd have lots of co-streams going on, and we'd have a few talks, presentations, and just generally modders talking modding stuff while other streamers stream modding stuff. Physical location, that's really difficult to do. So I don't think there will be, sadly, anything physical.
If people are around Portland and then want to hang out and have a beer, shoot me a message.
Yeah, same goes for Ottawa, but but otherwise, yeah, it's going to be it's going to be online virtual. But hopefully we can make something that's like 6 to 8 hours of people presenting interesting topics for people who want to join the community and be part of the community. Oh, SpongeForge, really, we would love them to come along. We would love SpongeForge guys to be here. This isn't about Forge modding, this is about modding.
Yeah. Oh, and someone gave me the idea. It would actually be kind of nice to have what's that modding thing that Sarge puts on? Have that same day.
Like a mod
jam.
Mod jam, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Possibly have a mod jam leading into it. That might be cool. No, not on the day, but after or before. Maybe with voting on the day.
But yeah, we just want to have this big thing, and
yeah,
the Minecraft modding community, it's huge, and we love the people in it, and it's really shitty that Minecon is a fake con now, so might as well hang out and do our own thing.
Yes, let's just show up the real Minecon for the little plastic thing it is.
Alright. I think we're about finished up. Any pressing questions that need to be answered before we leave?
No, I see one question in the QA channel, but it's item handler. We'll answer that one after. There'll be a follow-up probably on the channel for questions from now on. Okay. I will be posting this as a YouTube. I have been recording. I hope that the recording is good. So yeah, I will be uploading this to YouTube. It'll be on the Twitch VOD as well. So I have got it saving, so hopefully it will be saved as a vid there as well. Yeah, chat replay would be good, so it might be best on there. So. And with that, I think I desperately need a drink. So
yeah, doesn't look like there's any real questions in the chat. So yeah, that was good. Hope everyone learned stuff, and see you guys later.
Take care now. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.